Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So I want to tell you about a ghost story that's been killing people for over 200 years. Not metaphorically, actually killing them. Actors, directors, stage crew, anyone involved in telling her story. Her name is Oiwa. And if you're Japanese, you already know who I'm talking about. You probably grew up hearing about her. The most vengeful spirit in all of Japanese folklore. The ghost who refuses to be forgotten. The woman whose curse is so powerful that even today, in 2024, actors performing her story have to visit her grave and beg for permission before they can safely step on stage. And here's the thing, this isn't ancient history. This is happening right now. There was an incident in 2019, another one in 2015. Before that, 2008. Go back further. There are documented cases in the 1980s, the 1950s, all the way back to the original production in 1825. The play is called Yotsuya Kaidan. It's one of the most famous Kabuki plays in Japan, and it tells the story of Oiwa, a woman who was betrayed, poisoned, disfigured, and murdered by her husband. And in death, she came back, not for justice, for revenge. Tonight, I'm going to tell you 5 true accounts of what happens when you disrespect Oiwa, when you perform her story without permission, when you mock her pain, because Oiwa is still watching, still waiting, and she never, ever forgives. But first, we need to talk about the real Oiwa. Because yeah, she was a real person. The story starts in 1636, during the Edo period. Oiwa was a samurai's daughter. Her family had fallen on hard times, but she was beautiful, loyal, devoted. She married a man named Tamiya Iemon. By most accounts, she loved him, gave him everything, supported him when he had nothing. But Iemon was ambitious, cruel. He wanted wealth and status more than he wanted a wife. And when a rich man offered Iemon his granddaughter's hand in marriage, along with money and position, Iemon decided he needed to get rid of Oiwa. He couldn't just divorce her. That would be shameful. So he poisoned her, gave her medicine laced with toxic herbs that slowly destroyed her face. Her skin blistered, her hair fell out in clumps. One of her eyes drooped, half melted from the poison. She became hideous. Iemon told her it was illness, that she was cursed, and while she lay dying, disfigured and in agony, he brought his new bride into the house. When Oiwa finally realized what he'd done, she died of grief and rage. But before she died, she cursed him. She swore she would haunt him, destroy him, make him pay for every moment of suffering he'd caused her. And she did. According to the historical accounts, Iemon was found dead weeks later, alone in his house, his face frozen in a scream, his hands clawing at his own throat like he was trying to strangle himself, or like invisible hands were strangling him. The bride he'd planned to marry, she went insane, started seeing Oiwa's face everywhere, in mirrors, in water, in her own reflection. She drowned herself in a well. The rich man who'd arranged the marriage, his entire family died within a year, one by one. Accidents, sudden illnesses, madness. Oiwa's revenge didn't stop with her death. It spread like a disease to everyone who'd wronged her. In 1825, a playwright named Tsuruya Namboku IV wrote a Kabuki play based on Oiwa's story. He took the historical events and turned them into a ghost story, a revenge tale. He called it Yotsuya Kaidan. It premiered at the Nakamuraza Theater in Edo, which is now Tokyo. It was an instant hit. the most popular play of the year. People packed the theaters to see Oiwa's ghost crawling from a lantern, her ruined face revealed in flickering light, to watch her torment Iemon until he lost his mind. But during the rehearsals, strange things started happening. Props would move on their own. Actors would trip and fall during scenes where Oiwa's ghost appeared. The lead actor, the man playing Iemon, reported seeing a disfigured woman standing in the wings during performances, watching him. Tsuruya Nanboku was a superstitious man. He knew the power of stories. He knew that if you told a story about a vengeful spirit, you had to show respect. So before opening night, he went to Myōgyō-ji Temple in Sugamo, where Oiwa's grave is located. He prayed, made offerings, asked Oiwa's spirit for permission to tell her story, and the opening night went smoothly. No accidents, no strange occurrences. The play was a massive success, but Nanboku set a precedent. From that day forward, every production of Yotsuya Kaidan has followed the same ritual. Before the first rehearsal, the entire cast and crew must visit Oiwa's grave. They must pray, make offerings, ask for permission, and if they don't, people die. Let's talk about the first documented case of someone breaking the rule. In 1917, a theater company in Osaka decided to produce Yotsuya Kaidan. The director was a modern man, educated, rational. He thought the whole visit the grave thing was superstitious nonsense, old theater tradition that didn't mean anything. So he skipped it. They went straight into rehearsals without visiting Myōgyō-ji Temple, without asking Oiwa's permission. On the third day of rehearsals, the actor playing Iemon collapsed on stage, just dropped in the middle of a scene. He was rushed to the hospital. The doctors couldn't find anything wrong with him. No heart attack, no stroke, no physical cause, but he was unconscious for 3 days. When he woke up, he told the nurses he'd had a dream. A woman with a melted face and one drooping eye had been sitting on his chest, strangling him. He could feel her hands around his throat, smell the rot of her poisoned flesh. He refused to go back to the production. The director cast a replacement. They continued rehearsals. A week later, the lead actress, the woman playing Oiwa, broke her leg falling down a flight of stairs backstage, a stage that she'd walked up and down dozens of times before. She said she felt hands push her from behind, but no one was there. The director finally gave in. He took the entire cast to Myōgyō-ji Temple. They prayed, made offerings, begged Oiwa to forgive them and allow the production to continue. The play went on. No more accidents. But the director died 6 months later. Sudden heart failure. He was only 43 years old. That story is well known in Japanese theater circles. It's a warning. You don't mess with Oiwa. You don't skip the ritual. But every few decades, someone forgets. Or someone doesn't believe, and the curse reminds them. In 1956, a film adaptation of Yotsuya Kaidan was being shot. The director, Masaki Mori, was meticulous. He'd visited the grave, followed all the protocols, but one of the crew members, a young lighting technician, thought the whole thing was a joke. During a break in filming, he was setting up lights for the scene where Oiwa's ghost appears. He started mocking her, making jokes about her disfigured face, laughing about how she was just a story, not real. The other crew members told him to stop, warned him, but he kept going. He even said, out loud, that if Oiwa was real, she should prove it, show herself. That night, The technician was found dead in his apartment, electrocuted. He'd been working on a lamp in his bedroom. Somehow, he'd been shocked with enough voltage to kill him instantly. The lamp wasn't even plugged in. The police couldn't explain it. There was no source of electricity that could have caused the shock, but at the scene, witnesses reported a smell, sweet and rotten, like flowers left too long in stagnant water. The same smell that's described in the play when Oiwa's ghost appears. The film was completed. It's considered a classic of Japanese horror cinema. But Masaki Mori said in interviews that he never felt alone on that set. He always felt like someone was watching, someone who was making sure the story was told correctly. Fast forward to 2008. A major Kabuki production of Yotsuya Kaidan was being staged at the Kabukiza Theater in Tokyo. Big budget, famous actors. The lead role of Oiwa was being played by a well-respected onagata, a male actor who specializes in female roles, which is traditional in Kabuki. His name was Nakamura Fukusuke. He's still alive, so I can use his real name because he's talked about this publicly. Nakamura Fukusuke is a professional. He'd played Oiwa twice before, without incident. He knew the ritual. He'd visited the grave before every production, made offerings, showed respect. But this time, there was a problem. The rehearsal schedule was tight. The producer wanted to start immediately. They scheduled the grave visit for 2 weeks into rehearsals, after they'd already started blocking scenes. Fukusuke protested. He told the producers it was a bad idea. You visit the grave before you start, not during. But the producers overruled him. They had deadlines, contracts, money on the line. 1 week into rehearsals, Fukusuke collapsed, middle of a scene, same as the actor in 1917. He was unconscious for 20 minutes. When he woke up, he was disoriented, couldn't remember where he was. He told the director he'd seen her, Oiwa, standing in the audience seats, watching him. Her face was exactly as it's described in the play, melted, ruined, one eye drooping. But she wasn't just watching, she was waiting, like she knew something was about to happen. The producers rushed the grave visit. The entire cast went to Myōgyō-ji Temple the next day. They prayed, made elaborate offerings. Fukusuke personally apologized to Oiwa's spirit, explained that he'd wanted to visit earlier but had been overruled. The production went ahead, and it was successful. No more accidents, but Fukusuke has said in interviews that playing Oiwa that time felt different. He felt like he wasn't alone on stage, like something was inhabiting him during the performances, speaking through him. He's performed the role again since then, but he'll never, ever skip the grave visit again. Now you might be thinking, okay, these are old stories, superstitious theater people. It's all in their heads, right? Let me tell you about 2015. A university drama club in Kyoto decided to perform a modern adaptation of Yotsuya Kaidan, not traditional kabuki, a contemporary version, realistic makeup, modern staging. They thought because it wasn't a traditional production, the rules didn't apply. None of them visited the grave. Most of them didn't even know about the tradition. They were college kids, drama majors. They just wanted to put on a good show. The student playing Oiwa was a girl named Rina, 20 years old, theater major, no history of health problems. During the dress rehearsal, in the scene where Oiwa discovers her disfigured face, Rina looked into the prop mirror on stage, and she screamed. Not a stage scream, A real scream. Raw. Terrified. She dropped the mirror and started clawing at her own face, scratching, tearing at her skin. It took 3 people to restrain her. She was hospitalized. When she calmed down, she told the doctors what she'd seen in the mirror. It wasn't her face. It was Oiwa's face, the ruined, melted face from the play, and it was moving, smiling at her. But here's the worst part. When Rina looked at her own reflection after that, in any mirror, any reflective surface, she said she could still see it. Oiwa's face superimposed over hers, watching her. She dropped out of school. Last I heard, she'd moved back to her family's home in Hokkaido and refuses to look at mirrors anymore. The university canceled the production. The drama professor took the entire club to Myōgyō-ji Temple to apologize. He'd been teaching theater for 30 years and said he should have known better, should have taught them the tradition. The priest at the temple told them that Oiwa doesn't care about your intentions, doesn't care if you're students or professionals. If you're going to tell her story, you show respect, you ask permission, or you suffer the consequences. Our most recent documented case is from 2019, and this one is different because it didn't happen in Japan. A Japanese-American theater company in Los Angeles decided to produce Yotsuya Kaidan. Most of the cast and crew were second to third-generation Japanese Americans. They knew the story, knew it was famous in Japan, but they didn't know about the curse, about the grave visits, about the ritual. They went into production like any other play. Rehearsals, staging, costumes. The actor playing Aiemon was a guy named Derek, Japanese father, American mother. Grew up in California, spoke fluent Japanese, but had never actually been to Japan. 3 weeks into rehearsals, Derek started having nightmares. Every night, the same dream. He was in a traditional Japanese house, old, dark, and there was a woman sitting in the corner, her back to him. Long black hair, white kimono. He'd walk toward her, and she'd turn around. Her face was melted, destroyed, one eye drooping, and she'd smile at him, whisper his name, tell him he owed her something, a debt that needed to be paid. Derek thought it was just stress, method acting bleeding into his subconscious, but the dreams got worse, more vivid, more real. Then during a rehearsal, he was performing the scene where Eamon murders Oiwa. There's a moment where he's supposed to look down at her body and realize what he's done. Derek looked down at the actress playing Oiwa, and for just a second, her face changed. Her makeup was normal, but he saw something underneath, something rotting, something wrong. He stumbled backward, almost fell off the stage. He told the director he needed a break, needed air. One of the older crew members, a woman who'd immigrated from Japan in the 1980s, heard about what happened. She pulled Derek aside and told him about the curse, about Oiwa, about the grave visits. Derek didn't believe her at first, but that night he did some research, read the stories, read about the incidents, and he got scared. The problem was, Oiwa's grave is in Tokyo. He was in Los Angeles. He couldn't just fly to Japan and visit the temple, so he did the next best thing. He found a Japanese temple in Little Tokyo, explained the situation to the priest. The priest made some calls, contacted Myōgyō-ji Temple directly, arranged for a remote blessing. Derek video called into a ceremony at Oiwa's grave, made offerings through a proxy, apologized, asked permission to tell her story. The priest at Myōgyō-ji accepted his apology, but told him that Oiwa's power extends beyond Japan, that her story carries her curse wherever it's told. The play went ahead. It was successful. Derek said the nightmares stopped after the ceremony, but he also said he felt her watching him during every performance, a presence in the theater, not hostile, just watching, making sure he got it right. So what's really going on here? Is Oiwa's curse real, or is it mass hysteria, suggestion, self-fulfilling prophecy? From a rational perspective, you could argue that it's all psychological. Actors and crew members know the stories. They're primed to interpret any accident, any strange feeling, any moment of bad luck as evidence of the curse. In theater is already a superstitious profession. Bad luck is common. Accidents happen. The ghost light tradition exists in Western theater too. You always leave one light on when the theater is empty to appease the ghosts. Saying Macbeth inside a theater is supposed to bring bad luck. Every culture has its theatrical superstitions, so maybe Oiwa's curse is just a Japanese version of that, a way to explain the inherent danger and unpredictability of live performance. But then you have to explain the consistency, the specific details, the disfigured face, the smell of rot and flowers, the feeling of being strangled. The same dream reported by multiple people across different decades who had never met each other. You have to explain why this particular story, out of hundreds of Kabuki plays, has such a documented history of accidents and deaths. Why other ghost stories, other revenge tales, don't have the same power. And you have to explain Myōgyō-ji Temple. Why it's still there, still maintained, still visited by actors and directors and producers before every production. Why in 2024, professional theaters in Japan still budget time and money to take their entire cast and crew to visit a grave before opening night. If it's all superstition, why does it still work? Why do the productions that follow the ritual proceed without incident, while the ones that don't end in tragedy? I'll tell you what I think. I think Oiwa was a real woman. She really suffered. She really died in rage and pain. And I think her story is so powerful, her pain so visceral, that it created something. Not a ghost in the traditional sense, but a kind of psychic imprint, an echo, a pattern of energy that persists in the telling of her story. And when you tell that story, when you embody her pain on stage, you're connecting to that energy. You're channeling it. And if you do it disrespectfully, if you mock her or ignore the proper protocols, that energy turns on you. Because Oiwa's curse isn't about a ghost haunting a theater. It's about a woman who refused to be forgotten, who refuses to let her story be told wrong, who refuses to let anyone profit from her pain without acknowledging what was done to her. She's the wronged woman, the betrayed wife, the victim who became a monster, not because she chose evil, but because she was made into a monster by the cruelty of others. And her rage is righteous. Her revenge is justified. That's why her story is still told. That's why she's still feared. Because on some level, we all understand. We all know that if we were betrayed like that, poisoned and disfigured and murdered by the person we loved most, we'd want revenge too. Oiwa isn't a villain. She's a warning about what happens when you push someone too far, when you think you can get away with cruelty because your victim is powerless. and her curse is a reminder that the powerless don't always stay powerless, that sometimes the dead are stronger than the living, and that some debts can never be forgiven. If you're ever in Tokyo, you can visit Myōgyō-ji Temple in Sugamo. Oiwa's grave is still there. It's a tourist spot now, but it's also a working shrine. People leave offerings, actors leave playbills, directors leave photographs of their productions. The grave is quiet, peaceful, almost mundane, but the locals will tell you, don't mock her, don't laugh, don't treat her story like a joke, because Oiwa is still listening, still watching, and she never forgets. Thanks for watching. If you're involved in theater, if you've ever performed or been part of a production, let me know in the comments if you've heard of Oiwa's curse, if your theater has similar traditions. And if you ever decide to tell Oiwa's story, do me a favor. Visit the grave, make the offering, ask permission, because some stories come with a price, and Oiwa always collects. Hit subscribe for more real stories from across Asia. Stay safe, and remember, some curses are earned,